against anybody or not wanting to give anybody a second chance. But I think the opportunity for fair and upfront information before a job is offered, I think is a reasonable request, and I'm trying to understand the intent of the bill. Thank you.
I have a long list of people, I'm sorry to say, that have this. Would you like a response, sir, from Representative Terziak?
Doesn't necessarily have to come with Representative Terziak, although I appreciate his fine answers so far. But I'm willing to listen to anybody who can explain to me, as a small business owner, why I'm allowed to go through a process and spend some time interviewing people, advertising for that interview, to try to create time for managers and other people to sit for that interview and not ask a question, or have somebody tell me when I can ask a question of that person.
Senator Winfield.
Whoever you think best, Madam Chair.
Senator Winfield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is probably going to sound maybe wrong to some people, but I think it's precisely because there are people who act in a discriminatory way when they find out that people have criminal records. And the feeling is that one should not be precluded from having employment simply because of their criminal record. And so there are people who would be qualified to do a job, demonstrate in an interview that they are the type of person that the large or small business might like to have in their employ, and yet because they have a criminal record, never get that shot. And so the reason that you are allowed to ask the question is because you should be allowed to ask that question. But you should be allowed to ask that question from the understanding of those of us who are proponents of this bill at the point where it becomes more difficult to discriminate. Because if you are on the record as having felt as though this person jumped over all of the hurdles that you have put in place in terms of the interview, and at that point, the criminal record, particularly in those cases where it has nothing to do with the employment that is being sought, if you are on the record as having thought that this person met all of what they need to meet, then it does become about whether or not you're discriminating largely. It becomes about whether or not you're discriminating based on the fact that the person has a criminal history. And I have to say that representing the areas of New Haven and West Haven that I represent, and having the experiences I've dealt with people who have had a hard time being employed. So you talk about how hard it is to hire people. For some people, it's very difficult to be hired. And what this bill seeks to do is to find a way to remedy that. But your concerns are concerns that are important to those of us who are proponents of moving forward with this bill. And I think that's why the list that Representative Terziak is talking about for exclusions has grown and continues to grow. And I will say this to some people because I think that will become a point of concern such that they feel that we should not do the bill because that list continues to grow. We pass laws in this building all of the time, and we don't always get it right the first time. As a matter of fact, I would suggest getting it right the first time is not easy to do. And so are there going to be places where we didn't get it right if we pass this bill? Probably. But that does not mean we should not go forward to make sure that people who are in this state who are trying to turn their lives around can have that opportunity. Because if we don't do that, what we do is we create communities like some of the communities I see where there are a lot of people. At some points, maybe some people might suggest the majority of people were struggling to find employment. And I don't know who that's good for. All of the things that we're talking about, that we're going to be talking about as we move forward in terms of the budget and who accesses services, has something to do with whether or not those communities are able to find a place where they can be employed. So what I would say to people is I recognize the concerns that you have. But there are other concerns that you have that this bill is addressing, and I think it's important enough that we give this bill a chance. And so as one of the people who's been supportive of this concept in this bill, and one of the people who originated the 2009 ban the box for the state, I would ask for all of us to think a little bit before we cast the vote today. Thank you, Madam Chair.